Now, if you like the boxy proportions of a tough looking off-roader, something like Mercedes G-Wagon or the Land Rover Defender, then your options are pretty limited if you're not looking to spend over $100,000 in that case. So then you have to find something a little bit smaller and a little bit more price friendly. However, everything in the small SUV segment just looks like a lifted hatchback. So this one's a little bit different. This one's the 2021 Hyundai Venue. This one's the elite model. So this one here is around $30,000 drive away. So I'm gonna walk you around the exterior, the interior, and take it for a drive to let you know if you should buy one of these, if you like a boxy SUV, or look somewhere else. My name's Cameron. This is Product Review Cars. Let's get into it. Now, starting with the front, you can see this bonnet just shears off right at the front to meet the bumper here. You can also see a lot of squares happening around the headlight design. Additionally, because this is meant to look a bit more like an off-roader, even though it's a bit of a soft roader, you have a lot of plastic cladding down here and plenty of ground clearance compared to those other lifted hatchback SUVs. So the front of it really does look like it should be a tiny off-roader. Now, along the side, you can really see how boxy this thing is and also how short this wheelbase is, because this is a smaller SUV. I love the wheel design here. I don't think you should upgrade to the optional blacked out spindle wheels that you can get. I just think these look best for this car. You can see a bit of design trickery happening here with a blacked out roof. This is an option, but it does make the car look a lot more slim. And there's also an aero blade happening back here, which looks kind of cool. I say aero blade doesn't really do anything in aerodynamics. It just looks a bit more aggressive and interesting. And also some little body color, little rectangles coming down onto the plastic cladding to make it look a little bit more interesting as well. So it's not just a boring box, it's got some little flair on the side. I really like these roof rails on here. It just adds to the fact that you may be able to put something on the roof, and you definitely can, because they're definitely made of metal too. Now, moving around the back, you definitely see this is a pretty plain looking rear. It's nice and clean. It hasn't got anything overly excessive happening at the back. You do have these little crosses that you can see in the grille design. There's sort of like a little design element around the car. And you also have Venue spelled across the back, painted with some little white paint here, which looks quite interesting. I haven't seen many other cars with a painted in lettering on the back, so that's interesting. Now, overseas, this is affectionately known as the Denim Edition, and you can see why with this interior. I love jumping this interior because I thought it was going to be a little bit boring, and sure, down the range it can be a little bit bland, but add some color like this blue and the contrasting white plastic as well, this really does pop, and this becomes like a cute little car to run around in, and certainly complements the exterior quite well. It's not an overly complicated interior. What I like is it feels utilitarian and practical. In here we have an 8-inch touchscreen infotainment display. Yes, it's a bit stuck on, but look, it goes in with the whole square theme, at least with like these air vents that flank it either side. Now, you do have a funny little display for the air conditioning unit. You feel like you want to spin it at first, but then you do find that you have to adjust using the dials either side of it, but at least you have a nice clear readout of your temperature and what the air conditioning is doing. Plenty of places to connect up front. There's a 12-volt and 2 USBs. And then moving down to the shifter, I really like this little shifter here. It's got a little white bit of stitching. It feels like a bit of a Nautica theme in here, like you feel like you should be going down to the yacht club with this nice little blue, sort of ocean blue theme happening in here, and that goes with the shifter and the way the boot is all done up in leather. It's really nice. Little drive and traction button. We'll get to those when we're out driving. Love the steering wheel design, especially since it's in blue yet again. Now, the dials are basic. It will tell you just all your basic information in the little screen in the middle, but it has like there's a little bit of white dotting happening on the outside as if it's been like stitched in. So even though the dials are basic, it does look pretty interesting, more so than some other bland dials you might come across. Steering wheel is telescopic, which is nice to see at this price point. The seats are nice and comfortable. They've got a cloth middle, but some leather on the outside, so it means during summer, your butt's not gonna stick to it or anything like that. So I like a bit of blend in that case. There's some more buttons to control stuff like lane keep assist and traction control and all that. But overall, it's just a really utilitarian interior. Plenty of headroom. I'd be very surprised if anyone even over 6 foot could smash this roof. I'm 5'11", and I just feel like I have acres of room above my head. And then as for storage, there's some underneath the climate controls, and there's also a glove box, and there's a little shelf above that glove box just for charging. Reminds me a little bit like the Defender. Now, if you're looking to get this to house some rear passengers, and it's not just because you like a boxy SUV, this definitely goes leagues above other small SUVs because it's not compromised with a sloping roofline in the name of styling. Instead, this styling here is practical, it's boxy, which leaves you with plenty of headroom, and I feel like I have enough knee room here to make myself comfortable for for shorter trips, and I don't feel so claustrophobic back here. Thanks to these nice square windows, I feel like I have plenty of light coming in. Bit of an issue, when you're getting in and out of the doors here, there is a bit of a lip coming in. So you can snag your butt on that if you are not careful, and that really does hurt. So just be careful getting in and out of this, because even though it's got big openings, there is a bit of a lip getting in and out. Seats are comfortable, they have a nice recline to them. I don't feel so upright, which is fantastic. Middle seat passengers, actually not that bad. I have okay amounts of feet room, and my knees can fit nicely between the seats here, so it's not all that bad for middle seat passengers. However, long-term comfort, definitely going to be just good for around 4 people in here. And now it's not just for the rear passengers that a boxy shape really helps, it actually really helps for the boot space too. You get 355 litres in here without having to fold the seats down. It's a nice, boxy, and very SUV-like storage compartment area. It's got some tie downs on the bottom little parcel shelf here, which then if you lift up, it reveals a spare tyre. And look, it's a really usable and nice functional space in here. I really like this. It's not got a sloping, aggressive roof line. Instead, it's boxy, great entry, and a nice big opening to get into. Now you see this parcel shelf here, it's in blue as well, which I like that little attention to detail. And then if you want to get it out of the way, I know many people who have these and then they lose them about after a couple of months because they go, don't need that, and then they don't know where it went. So instead, Hyundai's got a bit of a solution here. What you need to do is you pull it forwards a little bit, requires a little bit of manhandling, and then you just push it down, and there you go. You've got a clear area to stack items just a little bit higher. But then if you want to fold the seats down in a 60-40 split fashion, you don't also get more cargo room, which is fantastic, but you also get a little cargo divider, which is really cool. Now we've seen everything that you need to see both on the outside and inside. Let's take it for a drive. All right, so driving in the Hyundai Venue, it is an interesting experience because when I got in, didn't really know what to expect. I kind of went in blind, and it was a bit intentional because I like getting a true and honest feel of the car before I read up about the engine or even the drivetrain or even the engineering beneath this. And now what I noticed immediately is it reminded me a lot of the 1998 Toyota RAV that I used to drive around. And that's not a bad thing. What it is that it's really easy to drive. It's got okay amounts of power, it's not overwhelming. What this is a fantastic daily and just so easy to approach and drive. There's nothing you have to learn more than the previous car you owned to be able to drive this. It's so comfortable, but then it gets all the modern creature comforts of a 2021 car. So I really like that. So we're working with a 1.6 litre petrol 4-cylinder motor in here. It's putting out 90 kilowatts and 151 newton meters. That's not a lot of power on paper. So how does it translate to kilowatts per ton? You're looking at around 75 kilowatts per ton. To give you an idea, a hot hatch is around 130 kilowatts per ton. That is a powerful car. This is well below that. So it definitely does feel like it is missing out on some power. And it is more than noticeable when you have up to 3 people in here, plus some cargo. So that is just something to note when you're buying this, is that unfortunately the power is not all there. And I don't like saying that all the time because look, it's not a fair assumption to think that everyone needs more power, but here it just feels like the car's working a little bit harder than I would like it to, and especially for something that's meant to be a comfortable daily driver. So that's just something to note with the power. But luckily it goes all through a 6-speed automatic transmission, which is fantastic because how good's that? No CVT, no dual clutch, we just have a traditional automatic. So that's what I really love about this car. And that automatic is smooth, it delivers really nice shifts, and it is never making itself noticeable, which is what you really want in a daily driver like this. We do have some drive modes. We have Eco, Normal, and Sport. I'll put this into Eco to start off with because really, no one is going to be using this. I mean, if you really are worried about fuel consumption, sure, put it into it and it'll give you a bit more peace of mind, but really it's not going to do all that much. So all it's going to do is dull down all your inputs and just make this car as economical as possible for when you're driving, say in bumper to bumper traffic, or when you don't want to be really sipping up so much fuel. And then you have normal mode, which is what I actually find myself driving in quite a lot. And now in between the modes, you don't actually feel like the car's doing all that much in between, because I think the normal stock setup is quite good. And going through corners, the nice squared off design we have here means that you're able to get a nice flat cornering experience. Even though this is a softer setup car, you're not wallowing all that much through corners. Yes, it is noticeable, but it's not overwhelming, and you do feel like you can tackle some corners at relatively normal speeds. You don't have to slow down for them like you would in some other raised up small SUVs. And then finally, we have sport mode. It's not my favorite mode, and that's just because this engine doesn't sound good when it revs out. That's not really a big issue in terms of power delivery. It's just not really a car you want to be in sport mode in for. It's not rewarding to be in sport mode here. Instead, you just get a bit more responsiveness, and that's about it. So that's all that you're really getting here with sport mode, is just to make the car a little bit more responsive. However, I just think with a naturally aspirated motor, it's responsive enough anyway if you need to dig down into the pedal. And in terms of ownership costs here, it's got a 5-year unlimited kilometer warranty, a very standard Hyundai warranty, and then to fill this up from empty is gonna cost you around $60. So it's actually a relatively cheap car to run, and it's got some nice warranty behind it. So look, I really appreciate this car because it's a more interesting budget-friendly option than some other small SUVs. It's got a nice design to it, and it's also just a very cool car, I think. I just really like driving this around. It's got a bit more visual flair and a bit more theater to it than some other small SUVs I've driven in the past. And even though it doesn't have all that much power, that is not a deal breaker in my opinion. Instead, I think you've got enough power here to make do for day-to-day use. And look, if you really need more power, then you probably don't want this category of car. Now, should you buy one of these? I think if you're in the market for a more interesting small SUV, something that's more traditionally looking like an SUV and trying to actually be one instead of being a lifted hatchback, this is a great option for the price, design, and the interior space that you get for this money. Now, the only issue is that you have two other competitors that you must consider. You've got the VW T-Cross, which is the German alternative, which we've yet to test. You've also got the Suzuki Jimny, which is a dedicated boxy off-roader and very much a shrunken down version of the true off-roaders out there. So you have to tell yourself, do you like the Hyundai more than the Volkswagen, or do you really want a more dedicated off-roader rather than some little traction modes? Then you might be better off looking at the Suzuki. Outside those, if you really like the Venue, I say definitely go for it. It is a great option in this market, and it's just so much more interesting than other smaller SUVs out there. I love how it drives, I love how it looks, and yes, it is a little bit underpowered. That is something to consider. If that's something that's an issue for you out in the open roads, then you might need to find something just with a little bit more kick to it. If you're around the city most of the time, it is just fine for that. And so you don't miss out on any of those reviews that I've mentioned, make sure that you are subscribed and turn that notification bell on. Leave a like if you liked it, disliked if you disliked it. Go into the comment section and have a chat with me because I'm down there hanging out. And if you have any questions about this car or just want to have a chat in general, I'll see you down there. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Cameron. This is Product Review Cars. I'll see you in the next one.